Hello, my name is Eva Morgan, and the purpose of this video is just to discuss literacy from various perspectives and how to get started as a parent, a teacher, a specialist, or an administrator as it pertains to creating your classroom library, as well as looking at how do kids get started in their reading. All right. So I am a parent of two beautiful girls, Lily and Eden. One is 3, she will be 4 next week, and one is 5, just started kindergarten. I've also been a teacher for a decade. I've taught pre-K, first, second, third. As a specialist for science, I did a specialist for pre-K through 4th grade and am currently in my 3rd year as an assistant principal. I've learned significant amount of special education as well as response to intervention and 504. And I've learned a lot about ESL learners and different things like that. I've taught them, but now I'm in the meat of data, if you will, from an administrator's perspective. So it's very, very different. I have supervised first grade and now supervising second, and I've also supervised third. I'm also, like I said, over response to intervention as well as special education on our campus. I work really closely with my in-class support teachers, and they're amazing. So I just thought I'd give my insight on how to start with literacy because this thing or this cloud about how to get kids to read or how to ensure your kid is reading is really, really important. And it's something that we struggle with as a nation. I mean, the report card, the national report card came out, which is called NAEP, and it's basically showing a regression in 4th grade literacy scores. So it is a concern. So this is just one way to kind of get started in regards to helping people see literacy in a new way. All right. So basically, the first thing you can do, in my opinion, as far as a library is concerned, is first off, go to the library. If you have not taken your kids to the library, I know right now it's COVID-19, so it's a very different atmosphere and climate in the United States of America, but it doesn't matter where you are. If you have a library, you should go to the library. They have different programs and different things for kids to do. Um, we went to the library every week and they read a couple of books. They read them like actual books. Then they read the ebooks as well as connected the lesson because it was very thematic. So they connected the lesson with art. So it was always really nice, and they always connected it with music as well. It was just very holistic, if you will, at the library that we go to, which was the Fort Bend County Libraries, and we specifically went to the Siena Branch location because that was the one closest to us. So go to the library and take your kids there and look at other libraries because over the summertime, not unfortunately not this summer because of COVID, but last summer I looked up different activities going on in the libraries around us. We did some yoga at a library. We did all kinds of just different things that they have available. They give free books. They give all kinds of wonderful things at the library. So you should go to the library, explore, ask for books if you don't have books at home. So the next piece we're going to talk about is to build it. So building your library from the perspective of a parent. One of the things you could do is just get started by starting to buy books for your kids. You can buy books at the store. Obviously, you can go to a public library and purchase books that way. One of the things that happened to me with our start of our library before Lily was born is at the baby shower, they actually dedicated books. So if I could show you one example. So this is a book, I Love You This Much, that I read to Lily every single night. And with Eden, and I sang it because it came with a CD. And this was from my friend Angela Allen, and Lily knows, so she has a personal connection with her. She knows that this is from Angela. She knows that this is the book we're going to read, and I I love that. So that's the thing that you can do is you can have aunts and uncles and cousins just get you a book to get your library started. It's really important to start reading with your baby literally as soon as that baby comes out. You want to talk to that baby, you want to read to that baby, you want to do all those things because they need to listen to you and hear your voice. So definitely with building it, that's what you want to do. If you're an educator and you're a teacher and you're new to the classroom, one of the resources or two of the resources you can use is you can make an Amazon wish list and you can post that on social media and it could get picked up. The other thing is you can go to Donors Choose and ask for materials that way, and just, I mean, GoFundMe pages, just different ways to get your library started. If you have not had the opportunity to do that, you can also, like I said, go to the library. They sell those books for 50 cents whenever they're trying to update their libraries. They have to get rid of their old inventory as well, so you can go that route. The last thing you can do, one of the things I did every single year as a teacher, is I would take my class to the library and I would tell them, okay, everybody's going to get 5 books that they think that they would be interested in reading. So I would take my cart, and this can be an experience. This was our first week, so just know that. We did that the whole first week. That's what we focused on. We focused on our library. So we would go to the library. Everybody would pick 5 books that they were interested in, and I would pick some extras to kind of differentiate with some informational and things like that. And when we got back to the classroom, we did an activity of sorting. So in each group, they would sort their books how they think it would go. And then we kind of talked about it. And I said, what would you title that as? And then we kind of worked our way through fiction and nonfiction. And then it kind of separated itself within those different genres. So it was really nice. It was a lesson. I was able to hire my students as librarians, let them understand that this is how we categorize, and we want to make sure when we check out the library books that we sign them out, and all of those things took place in my classroom that first 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on how the week went, of school. I think that's extremely valuable. So that's another way you can get started with creating your classroom library. As far as specialists and administrators are concerned, from that kind of perspective in my brain and that through that lens, what I would say is make sure your teachers have libraries in their classrooms and have books available. And if they don't, find a way to get those resources to them. Okay? And if you're a teacher also and you don't have a library, ask your administrator to help you. They need to have money put away for those kinds of things if they don't already have books in the somewhere in the school. Ask not, for you have not. Use it is the next piece here, right? You want to use your library. So every night, I mean, now that they're a little bit older, before I used to go and I used to pick the books for the girls and things like that. But now I say, okay, Eden, you go pick a book. Lily, you go pick a book. They come downstairs. My husband and I will read to them. Every night we read books, period. That's what we do. Okay, so you want to use your library. So one of the things I did recently, and that was this summer, especially because of COVID-19, so I had a little more time, we started reading chapter books. Now my kids are 3 years old and 5 years old, okay? And we are reading chapter books and they're able to follow along. Plus we were able to watch the movies that go along with it. In addition to that, we were reading Katherine Applegate's The One and Only Ivan and The One and Only Bob. And what was beautiful about that is we were able to connect with the author on Twitter, Katherine Applegate, and send her a video, which kind of solidified that. And what ended up happening because of that is she actually sent us a book and she autographed it and sent it to Lily and to Eden. And it says, for the one and only Lily and the one and only Eden, Katherine Applegate. And I thought that was beautiful because the movie was coming out. So we got our pink cotton candy, another connection that we made that made it fun. And we watched the movie and we just had a really good time as a family. So I think that's really important. Please do not tell your kids just because they can't read these books that they can't check them out. That is my pet peeve for sure. Don't get me wrong. I was guilty of it my first 2 years of teaching. And then I realized, I came to the realization, it doesn't matter. Let them check the books out that they want to check out. They will figure out what they like, what they don't like. We want them to read for enjoyment, but we also want them to learn how to read. And if we start by telling them they can't read that because you don't know how to read, that's not going to help them. Okay. The other piece of this is update your library. If you see a piece, buy it, if it's something cheap, if you can afford it. There are ebooks as well that are available through schools if your kids are in school, so they have those options of reading those as well. And lastly, right here in the little corner, you see this guy right here, Model. Okay, so my most recent book that I'm currently reading, I just got it in the mail, is Relationship Grit. And I get a lot of my ideas of what I'm going to read through my Twitter page. I have a lot of authors on my Twitter because I like to see the latest education books and the latest books to help me. So this is what I'm reading currently, and actually it's really nice. I love the anecdote between the wife and the husband about relationship grit. It's actually motivating me on a quick little video that I'd like to do with my husband. But model to your kids. Your kids will see you reading. Okay, I hope you're not just planted in front of the television and telling them to go read and do your homework because I've already done my job. Like, show them that, reading is valuable. Reading is important. Reading can be for enjoyment. Reading can be for the purposes of research or whatever the case may be. So make sure that you model that for them. All right, so let's talk about research. I'm going to move myself over here a little bit. Boom, 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 under the baby. So, vocabulary research or the word gap. Okay, so there's a couple of pieces of research and articles that I pulled on this from, Stanford as well as NPR and different places. So we've got two kinds of things going. But one of the things that the researchers can agree or the experts can agree on is that there is a word gap based on socioeconomic status. Okay, now the 30 million words was the original saying, if you will, that there's a 30 million word gap between kids that are low and in poverty and on welfare versus some that were from more affluent neighborhoods and families and that kind of thing. Now, people will argue that, oh my gosh, it's not 30 million words. And they kind of go back and forth with this idea of how many words is it? How do we determine that? What does that look like? What does that sound like? That's not enough research and that kind of thing. The bottom line is there is a gap. Okay? There is a gap. I'm not going to tell you how much the gap is, and it's not every single kid, right? But you have to know your kid. If you're watching this video and your kid is a talker and they just keep talking and they say words like ridiculous and all kinds of other things, I think you're okay. That means you are talking to your kids, which brings me to the third bullet, which is Providence Talks. Providence Talks was or is a research-based, and what they were trying to do was kind of put a recording device on kids and try to listen in on how many words they're speaking, how many new words are added to their vocabulary per day, how long is their processing taking, and that kind of thing. So it's how many words, how many new words, and then what's their processing time and those kinds of things. Okay, so they're looking at different things that way for early literacy. And all this boils down to, at the end of the day, is one thing, maybe two things. You need to read with your kids. You need to talk to your kids. If you're not reading with your kids, you're missing a huge opportunity. If you are not talking to your kids, you're missing a huge opportunity. So, what I would like to recommend is that you take the time today to start building that library and get started with your kids, get them excited about reading, make those connections with them, listen to them. And every opportunity that you get, that you have that opportunity to have a conversation with your kid and explain things, that's why they ask why a lot, then you can make sure that you talk to your kids when you're sitting with them. If you're sitting in the car with them, if you're giving them a bath, or if they're brushing their teeth, you want to have those conversations about, cavities and tartar and plaque and flossing and gums and whatever. Anything you can think of, try to expand that vocabulary in that content area. And that's really going to ultimately set your kid up for success as far as vocabulary, building their vocabulary and getting them to become proficient readers.